Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and let's face it, the conversations around mental health are much more open than they used to be post-COVID. And to talk more about mental health and how all of you in customer-facing roles can do a better job of being there for your team or yourself, to be more aware of some of the challenges in corporate America today to support our employees with mental health. Here to talk about that is Amy Smith, the Chief Brand Officer at TOMS. TOMS is a company that was started in 2006. They were one of the first, if not the first, to pioneer the one-for-one model. They have 500 employees. Today, they've pivoted their social impact and giving strategy, which we talk about in the podcast. And Amy Smith, our guest, has a wealth of relevant experience, including a bunch of years at Apple, including time working at Apple when Steve Jobs was there. And she helped launch their first 50 retail stores in a very short amount of time. Let's get to today's episode. Please enjoy Amy Smith. Customer education isn't just nice to have for growing businesses, it's essential. There are only so many hours in the day for you and your team to personally onboard and address the needs of your growing number of customers. That's why you need Thinkific Plus. Thinkific Plus provides businesses like yours with a powerful, easy-to-use educational platform to keep your vendors, partners, and customers informed, engaged, and coming back. With Thinkific Plus, you can create memorable, interactive customer experience content with live lessons, communities, assignments, customer engagement surveys, and more. You can sell individual courses directly to customers or bundle them to sell to large organizations. You can generate monthly recurring revenue through membership programs and course subscriptions. You can transform leads into brand advocates by offering high-value education at every stage of the customer journey. Thinkific Plus will help your business grow too. Don't wait. Sign up for Thinkific Plus today. Right now, my listeners get a free month of Thinkific Plus when you go to my special URL, thinkific.com/modern. Start your free month today at thinkific.com/modern. Amy, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. We were just chatting. You're only like 30 minutes away from me right now in Culver City. So it's really good to have you here. Next time we should do it in person.
That's a great idea. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. Let's definitely do it in person next time. I love that we can do things in person now.
I know. Isn't it nice? I know. I was just at USC Annenberg School on Friday interviewing someone in person, and it was just nice. It's just nice to see a smile. Anyway, let's talk about your career, Amy. You spent some time at Apple. You've been at TOMS for 3 years. Can you just talk about some of your experiences and how they're informing what you're doing now at TOMS?
Yeah, absolutely. I have what I like to call a bit of a eclectic career path, and I have enjoyed every single minute of it. I did start my career at Apple, but I've been there twice. I started there just kind of green out of school, learning everything I could, having such a fantastic opportunity to engage in so many different things. And then actually went on to a startup and was doing product development, project management for them. It was in the wedding industry, really getting wedding registries online. And that's like commonplace today, but it was brand new then. Yeah. And then I went back to Apple and I worked on the retail stores. And that was such an incredible experience, bringing a new experience to our customers through a brick and mortar location, something that Apple had never done on its own. And it was just such an incredible experience to build something brand new with Apple and for our consumer. And then I actually went to a nonprofit for a little while, which was something that I had never thought I would do, but loved it and helped them do a merger, bringing two nonprofits together to create the largest organization dedicated to volunteer service. And so that was an incredible experience, bringing really meaningful volunteer opportunities to communities. And all the culmination of those experiences, working in startup, working in technology, working in nonprofit, have brought me to this opportunity at TOMS where I'm our chief brand officer. I've been with TOMS for about 6 years, and I have done a variety of different things here. I joined the company as our chief giving officer, and that's back when we were still giving shoes. And so we actually are no longer doing that, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about that, but all of that, I went to school for materials and logistics management. So even like making sure shoes got around the globe and in a
Mm-hmm.
responsible, meaningful way was how I started out. And then really looked at evolving the impact model. I led the charge on that project. And now I am leading up all things that are meaningful to our brand and to our customers. So that's our marketing and our creative efforts, our impact work, of course, where I started, and then our experience on toms.com.
All right, so we have a lot to cover. You did say something I just have to ask you before we get
Of course.
into what we're here to talk about today with Tom's. So something that my audience, I know they want to hear from you about is when you mentioned real estate at Apple and you mentioned the stores, like I know there's so much customer strategy into the way those stores were built and the Genius Bar, Genius Bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, like just even the way you walk into the store and the way you feel and like how a part of that customer strategy and how those stores were created and presented, like how involved were you?
Yeah, it was core to my role on the front end. So I kind of played a role of developing almost like store out of paper, if you will. Lots of foam core, lots of building fixtures to really analyze what the customer experience was going to be. And so it was this beautiful combination of art and science, right? Bringing together what we knew about our consumer at Apple, bringing together really the heart and soul that Steve Jobs brought to it from an art perspective. He had very incredible intuition he knew what the consumer needed before they knew what they needed, right?
Yes.
We said that quite often. And so bringing that into the mix along with test and learn rapid prototyping, like it was a constant state. I had a full construction team that I managed building a store kind of in like a off to the side warehouse. We would change the size of the walls. We would change the size of the fixtures. We would use different door handles. We would use different signage and just kind of test it and test it and test it and test it until we felt like we got it mostly right. And then we started implementing it. And the role I then played was making sure that it was implemented correctly, and I was kind of the liaison between the construction team and the store operations team, making sure that we were handing over the store that we thought our customer deserved to the store operations team so they could put product in it and bring it to life for our consumer. So absolutely one of the most incredible experiences in my career. I really, really loved doing it.
Were you there when Steve Jobs was there?
I was.
Okay. What was that like?
It was never a dull moment. Never
Okay.
a dull moment. Yeah. So I didn't work directly for Steve. I was on the construction side, kind of helping support that work. But we built stores all over the country. I was part of the first 50 store opening team.
Wow.
And so it was really just, I love to build things. I love to fix big problems. I love to work on things that are new and innovative. And so it's right in my wheelhouse of things that I enjoy doing.
Okay, well, we could do a whole podcast about that, but we're actually here to talk about something that I think our audience are impacted by every day, and that is May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think one of the silver linings of COVID is just the fact, Amy, that so many of us were struggling and we started talking about, oh yeah, life is hard, work is hard. A lot of our audience, they work with customers. That is so hard. They work in contact centers. It's tough. So let's just talk about where TOMS is at with social impact, with mental health awareness, and we'll move from there on to some of the other questions I have for you today.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Mental health has certainly been an issue that we should have normalized a long time ago, and COVID and everything that was happening in the world in and around that time with social injustice and so many other things that were happening has pushed us to say, okay, enough is enough. We need to all be talking about our mental health, just like we would talk about a broken arm or a cold or a sprained ankle. We need to also be caring for our mental health. And so TOMS has been committed to mental health for a very long time, actually. Even when we were giving shoes, that was part of our strategy, is when a child has a new pair of well-fitting, activity-appropriate shoes that are theirs, their confidence is instantly higher. The smile on their face comes more easily, no matter their circumstance. And so we started learning more about that and tried to, when we decided to evolve our impact, really consider what we had learned throughout that process of giving children shoes. How could we apply that to what might be next for TOMS? And in my role as the Chief Impact Officer, I really thought about, are we having the greatest impact we can with the unprecedented dollars that we give? And if that answer to that question is ever, I'm not sure, I don't think so, then we should really rethink what we're doing and really take that next step to ensure that we're doing everything we can responsibly and creating the most impact with the dollars that our consumers generate. That's how the model works, right? When people buy TOMS, we're able to do something great in the world, and we can't do that without our customers. So we know how important a great customer experience is. So we made that evolution about 2018 to move on from shoe giving. We gave our shoe giving partners a year's notice. We helped them transition, all the things that you would do in a responsible environment around impact. And we looked at our learnings and said, we really want to be part of creating equity in the world. And for us, we wanted to focus on mental health. And there's some reasons why, right? Nearly 1 in 5 adults live with a mental illness here in the United States. There's been, the Surgeon General has declared a mental health crisis for our youth. And so we all know that mental health challenges have ripple effects that go way beyond the individual or even the family and well into our communities. And so when COVID came along, it just reinforced our commitment to this work and to what we were committed to doing. So our mission has always been to improve lives through business, right? That's been our mission from day one. And so now we're just doing that through our mental health efforts. We work with smaller organizations that are working directly in community to help support people find resources for mental health services. We know that many people delay getting a mental health resource or support because they don't know where to start. And so those are the types of organizations that we're investing in as part of our mental health resource efforts. So when you buy TOMS, you help fund access to mental health resources for the millions of people who need them. And that's really where we're grounding our impact these days. And we're really excited about it, and we know it's needed, and we're focused on it in a way that is very much at the community level, really on the ground.
So, Amy, I know when our listeners are hearing what you're saying, they're wondering, okay, so why did you switch? Why did the 1-for-1 model, why did you get away from that? Like, was there a negative impact? So could you just talk about that for a minute?
Of course, yes. So we are an organization of learners, and our impact team, we are very lucky to have actual individuals that work on our impact team and that are focused on making sure, 1, that we are giving responsibly, 2, that we are working with best-in-class partners or helping organizations become best-in-class, and 3, that we're doing no harm, right? Not that our best intentions are not harming communities in any way. And so when we were giving shoes, we did get some feedback like, well, you might be taking jobs in local communities, right? Or you might be taking away from, say, a cobbler or a shop front that is selling shoes. And so we went and tested that and learned that it actually wasn't true. We weren't giving at a large enough volume in any one community to have a negative impact on that local economy. So we felt good about that. The reasoning for our choices around evolution was really to say, really answering that question of, are we having the greatest impact possible? And we've been giving shoes for over 15 years. We had given over 100 million pairs or impacted 100 million lives through our shoe giving, shoe sight and water giving. It was our 15th anniversary. It was really like this milestone for the company to say, is it time for us to innovate again? And can we do that in an area that, one, we think we can add value to? There's white space, there's opportunity, we can add value. Two, it's going to resonate for our consumers. And three, that we have enough expertise and can build partnerships with organizations to really lean into their expertise. And we were able to answer yes to all of those and chose this evolution because of that.
So one of the things that I think a lot of managers and people leaders struggle with is like, how do you talk to your teams about mental health? You know, I've heard leaders talk about just being more vulnerable themselves with their teams, but it's a little touchy because, you know, at work, we still have to be competent. Like, we can't, it's not therapy. You know, you have to be professional. People need to be able to do their jobs. But at the same time, many employees don't have the resources to maybe have a therapist. They don't even know where to go. You know, maybe if their family, it's not like it just wasn't taught to them. So managers are having to actually kind of be therapists. That's what I've read. The research shows. Do you have any tips for our managers that want to extend a hand to their teams and have the conversation and just be a support in an appropriate way?
Yeah. Well, I know we'll talk a little bit more about Mental Health Awareness Month, but tips we think are a really important part of this process. And because none of us really know where to start, right?
Right.
And so the number one way that a manager with an employee can do that, or one of the ways, maybe it's even not number one, I shouldn't say that. One of the important ways is to say, how are you doing? How are you really doing? And create space for that conversation. We often, I do this as well, like run right into the agenda.
Yes.
What do we have to cover? How do we get this done, right? I've got something else in 30 minutes. And so creating a little bit of space to say, hey, Blake, hey, Amy, how are you really doing today? How are you and allowing space for that conversation. And it is a vulnerable moment. And I think it's important for if an employee doesn't feel comfortable sharing that, or if they really are doing great, that's great. That's amazing. But to say, well, here's how I'm feeling today, or here's what I'm getting stuck on, or, you know, my kid cried this morning, you know, whatever those things are, they often can be simple things that if you just share them, you get that moment of relief, you get to take that breath. And so for a manager, that's a really good starting place. One, to show your own personal vulnerability, and then two, to provide space to ask that question authentically and hear the answer to it. Of course, as a company, we feel it is so important to walk the talk. We always say ground up change starts with us. And so at TOMS, we try to champion things that we know support our employees' mental health. And everyone is different, to your point, right? Shared that there's no one answer to all of this. And so we do things like ensuring everyone understands access to the mental health resource benefits that they do have being an employee of TOMS, evaluating those and seeing if people are using them, and are they meeting the needs of our employees. So making sure on the HR side, we're really paying attention to that. We're really supporting. We, for one summer, we did what we called half-size Fridays. And so we wrapped the day at noon, and it was just going to be a summer program, get out there, enjoy the weather. And when it was time for it to end, employees really spoke up and said, you know, this is a game changer for me. That I'm able to, whether it be I'm going to stay online and catch up on email and really be able to go into my weekend feeling relaxed and feeling like I can unplug from work, or I'm going to run some personal errands Friday afternoon and then really feel like I can be my full self on Monday morning. And so we've kept it. And now it's just part of being an employee at TOMS, and it's a benefit to our employees. And it has been a total game changer, a real simple thing that we can do. So every company is different. Every company culture is different. You know, we have dogs in our offices, and that really is brings joy to people. We encourage people. We have a meditation class. We encourage people to engage in that. We've given subscriptions to meditation apps in the past, right? Those types of things where we really are walking the talk as an employer to help our employees think through those things.
What do you think, Amy, about this idea of training contact center agents and people that work with customers to create healthy boundaries and use language that kind of diffuses stressful customer situations? Do you have any feedback or thoughts on if you guys do that, or if you would recommend our listeners think about that kind of communication training to protect agents?
Yeah, that's a great question. The customer service team, as part of our team, does go through a training for how do you manage escalations, right? How do you support that consumer and how they're feeling, and really make sure that we have the right language to help the consumer, hopefully not escalate, right? But I do think it's a really tough role that so many of your listeners play, and every time I get on the phone to talk to someone who's in customer service, really try to remember how hard their job is,
Right.
and how challenging it can be, right? And so them taking time to ensure they're taking care of themselves, and that they're getting the training that they need to feel empowered to protect themselves. And that should be for all of us, right? In any conversation. If a conversation is making you feel bad about yourself or being disrespectful to you, it is perfectly okay to say that conversation is no longer making you feel safe and that you need to take a break from it. And I'm certain that in customer service environments, right, that's a little different than if you're talking to a friend or you're talking to someone in the grocery store or whatever. But I certainly think it is another evolution that we need to take as companies to ensure we're supporting our employees.
Let's talk. We're kind of near the end of our time together, and then we'll get into some rapid fire. But let's talk about retail for a minute. There's a lot of changes happening in retail, and just in the news lately, we've seen some big retailers, like physical retailers, shut their doors. David's Bridal announced bankruptcy for the second time. Today, Bed Bath & Beyond, they're closing their doors. There's just a lot of change around retail. TOMS has continued to be successful and innovate. And do you have any advice for our listeners in retail that are facing unprecedented change and how they can continue to be successful even despite just so much uncertainty out there in the economy?
Yeah, what do they say? The only consistent is change.
Right.
And so we certainly, I can share examples of how we deal with it at TOMS. We certainly say that there's no guarantees, but we try to be as transparent as we possibly can with our employee base about what's happening inside TOMS and what that might mean for the business. And I really hope that other companies are doing the same thing for their employees. When and if that happens for someone, I think companies have an obligation certainly to support that employee in their transition, and make sure that they're supported in being able to articulate their skills to a next opportunity or update their resume or get a mental health resource if they're really feeling that that's something that they need. And so again, in that evolution of how do companies act and support employees, these are important changes in evolution for companies to take on and to take very seriously, about how we build really healthy employees, and really you're going to get the most out of them if we do that, if we invest in our employees in that way. And so we've always said, of course there's PTO, of course take your time away, of course do all those things, but it's next level, right? There's so much happening in the world around us. To your point around uncertainty from a career perspective and from a job perspective, that if we take these mental health opportunities seriously, I think it's gonna be a good thing for everyone. And it's why we're so excited to support Mental Health Awareness Month, right? May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and TOMS is going to be offering 30 days of mental health tips for everyone to come and access. And it's everything from the science behind taking a short walk if you're really feeling stressed, to a fun playlist that our employee base has put together of really just joyful music, to more serious things around what our impact partners are doing, and if you need a mental health resource, how to access one. And so every day for 31 days of May, we're going to be providing those tips and resources to people. So we hope that everyone comes and enjoys them and engages with them and shares them with others. That's the other big thing that we're focused on as part of this Mental Health Awareness Month is it's called Wear Good, Share Good. And so you get these daily tips for yourself, and then we encourage you to share them with someone else so that you might be helping someone in a moment when they need it the most and not even know that you're helping them. So that's another way, I think, for all of us to engage in supporting each other in our communities, whether that be at work or in our social lives. And so hopefully people will access those resources, employees, employers, and really put them to action for themselves and for those around them.
Last question before we get into rapid fire. You spent quite a lot of time at Apple. You were there, then you took a break, then you went back. Apple's culture is, rumor has it, it's very intense. I did a job interview there, by the way. I didn't get that job. It was good that I didn't work there. But
right.
Anyway, it's notoriously intense. And when you were there, I'm sure it was very intense, setting up the first 50 stores. Can you imagine taking some of the tenets of what you're teaching now at TOMS and going back in time? Do you think that it would have been well received in Apple's culture back in 2002 when you were there?
Certainly on the teams I was a part of, right? We were very close. We had taken on a big, meaty project. We had ups and downs in, as you can imagine, getting 50 stores open in a year. And I think I even look back at it for myself and say, if I just would have taken a short walk, if I just would have taken a breath, if I just would have put my hand on the shoulder of someone that felt really stressed and said, hey, are you doing okay? Do you want to talk for a minute? And that's the evolution that I'm really excited about and really proud of. And I think we're all learning how to do that more in a more comfortable way. So did we do it as much back then? No. Do I think it would have been well received? Yes. But I think it was because we had a level of trust with each other that was pretty high, right? We were a small team trying to do a big thing in the world. And when you have those shared goals, I think it's a little bit easier to build trust so that you can get to that place. Mm-hmm. What I think we have to do as leaders in corporate America today is dive in, get in there with both feet, and say it's okay to ask these hard questions and maybe to be a little bit vulnerable as leaders. I think it's actually really important, and I think it will help others step forward and feel like they also can be vulnerable. And I think it makes us all stronger collectively.
Well, that is wonderful. I love that. And I think these tips, all of our listeners, think about all the people where, maybe they would have benefited from your kindness and support or just even a smile. We all have people in our lives where you just felt like, man, if I would have just been a little bit kinder to them, maybe they felt like they could have come to me. And I think we all have to be nice to ourselves and we're all doing the best that we can. So I really appreciate that you guys are, taking a public stance on mental health awareness. I think this is such an important topic. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm glad I got to share a little bit of it with you all. And I'm really eager to provide more and more resources for our consumers and anyone else who wants to be part of the TOMS community. So Mental Health Awareness Month is a great way to kick that off.
All right. So now we have some rapid fire questions, which there are some.
Okay, I'm ready. I'll sit up straighter.
Okay, you're ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
First question. All right. Tell us about your morning routine.
My morning routine. Okay. My morning routine is get up very early and exercise, and I am obsessed with indoor cycling. So I get on a piece of metal and I pedal as fast as I can for 1 hour in a dark room with loud music. And it actually is certainly good for my physical health, but I have now done it for long enough that it is a core part of my mental health. When I miss, I feel it. I feel as though I'm a little agitated, or I'm not quite as patient, or I'm wiggly in my seat. Mm-hmm. And so taking time for myself first thing in the morning to get that exercise in, to clear my head. I choose the indoor cycling because I love loud music. I love moving my body, and I love not being in charge of something for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Someone's telling me what to do, and I just get to do it and let my mind kind of clear. So that's step one in my day. And then the rest is off to the races, I must say. I'm in meetings immediately. I probably have, a cup of coffee and some fruit at my desk, and often a working lunch, if lunch. And my day is off and running. So try to grab that shower and hopefully brush my hair,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're off to it. So that exercise, so funny that you brought that up, is the one of the most important things in my day.
I love that. That's awesome. All right. Well, going to the end of the day, how do you relax at the end of a hectic day?
Yeah, also a great question. I love to sit down with my husband and my kids for dinner, and we don't get to do it all the time, but it's really a space where we all can kind of share our day, what went well, what didn't go well. It's a time for us to connect as a family, and it's really hard to do because you gotta like put food on the table for everyone. You actually have to like put the phone down. You have to like we have no electronics dinner. And so that is one of the ways I love to end my day. And then we'll all kind of cuddle on the couch for 30 minutes of some fun, silly television. And then everyone's kind of off to do whatever they need to do for the evening. But that is one of my favorite ways to end the day. And we try to do it at least 3 times a week, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds good. What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. So I listen to a lot of Brene podcasts. I love that she intersects um, the science with the leadership development and how our brains work and how we can communicate more effectively. So she's top of my list. I like to consume a lot of what's out there, but she's definitely top of my list.
If you could have lunch with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Barack Obama.
Okay. If you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
My outlook in one quick motto. Oh, that's a good one too. Um, what I tell my kids most and what I try to live by is you are that which you think of most.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are confident and you try hard and you put yourself out there, good things will come. And if you think you can't do it, you probably won't do it. So it's big words for little kids, but you are that which you think of most is one that I try to remember myself and share with them.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so wise. Well, I want to thank you for being here to talk about Mental Health Awareness Month. And if people want to learn more about this program, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can just come to toms.com/impact and they'll be able to find all the details. We'll have a special page that launches on May 1st. So come on over to toms.com. You can follow us on social media at Toms on Instagram, and we'll have all the tips there. You can download the tips from the website individually and as a collective, and you can download a poster and hang it at your office if you're all back in your offices. So lots of resources to come find at toms.com for Mental Health Awareness Month.
All right. Well, Amy, thank you for being on the Modern Customer Podcast. Next time we'll do it in person and we'll get coffee. And just really appreciate you being here.
I love that. Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
And all of you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.